I still remember the day the news broke. It felt like something out of a movie, but it was all too real. An FBI director, one of the most powerful law enforcement officials in the country, was pulled over by a police officer, and before he could even react, he found himself staring down the barrel of a gun. The director, a black man in his late 50s, had spent decades working in law enforcement. He had dedicated his life to justice, to protecting people, to ensuring that laws were followed. And yet, in that moment, none of it mattered. He wasn't a high-ranking official. He wasn't a man with years of service under his belt. He was just another black man on the side of the road, being treated like a threat. Witnesses say it happened fast. The police officer, a young white man, claimed the director's car matched the description of a stolen vehicle. Instead of approaching with caution and professionalism, he pulled his gun and ordered the director to step out with his hands up. The air was thick with tension, and the weight of history pressed down on the moment. The echoes of countless similar incidents playing out in the background of every onlooker's mind. The FBI director tried to explain. He identified himself, he showed his badge, but the officer wasn't listening. He kept yelling, kept his weapon raised, his hands shaking slightly. There was something unsettling about the way he held the gun, as if he was unsure, as if he was teetering on the edge of making a fatal mistake. "Get on the ground," the officer screamed. The director hesitated for a moment, his mind racing. He had trained officers. He had worked on de-escalation tactics. He had spent his career trying to prevent situations like this. And yet, here he was, experiencing it firsthand. He knew that in moments like these, hesitation could be deadly. But he also knew that blind obedience could be just as dangerous. His heart pounded in his chest as he slowly lowered himself, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Neighbors came out of their homes. A woman across the street started recording. Bystanders were shouting, some pleading with the officer to listen. But he wouldn't. He was convinced he had a dangerous suspect. To him, nothing else mattered. It was a script he had been trained to follow, a pattern as old as American law enforcement itself. A black man, a perceived threat, a gun drawn, a situation spiraling out of control. It wasn't until backup arrived that things changed. Another officer recognized the FBI director immediately and rushed over, yelling at his colleague to lower his weapon. Confusion filled the air. The officer who had drawn his gun looked around as if suddenly realizing the severity of what he had done, as if waking up from a trance. The director, still shaken, was helped up by the second officer. His hands were shaking, not with fear, but with anger. He knew what had just happened to him. He knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was profiling. It was the same thing black men across the country faced every single day. And this time, it had happened to him. The fallout was swift. The video spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up, and the public outcry was deafening. People demanded justice, accountability. A police officer had just held the head of the FBI at gunpoint because he didn't take a moment to listen, to assess, to think. Days later, the officer was arrested. His department acted fast, knowing they couldn't cover this up. He was charged with misconduct, excessive force, and false imprisonment. And while some people saw this as justice, many others knew the truth. This was only happening because the victim was someone powerful. If it had been anyone else, just another black man on the road that day, would the officer have faced consequences? Would anyone have cared? The FBI director later spoke about the incident. He didn't hold back. He talked about how in that moment, he wasn't an official, he wasn't a leader. He was just another black man fighting to be seen, fighting to be heard. He spoke about the fear, the humiliation, the anger. And he called for change, real change, so that the next time, it wouldn't take a badge to prove someone's worth. Because no one should have to beg for their humanity to be recognized. The story sparked debates across the country. Some argued that it was proof that no one was safe from racial profiling, not even the most powerful. Others, those who refused to see the reality of systemic injustice, dismissed it as an unfortunate mistake, an isolated incident. But for the black community, for those who had lived through this kind of fear time and time again, it was another painful reminder of the truth they had always known. The FBI director, a man who had once believed in the power of the system to protect and serve, found himself questioning everything. He knew that real change wouldn't come from one officer being jailed, it wouldn't come from headlines and viral videos. It would only come when the system itself was dismantled and rebuilt, not just with new policies, but with new hearts, new minds, and a new understanding of what justice truly meant. And so he continued to fight. Not just as an official, but as a black man who had survived an encounter that so many others had not. He vowed to use his position, his voice, and his experience to push for real reform. He knew that this wasn't just about him. It was about the millions of black men and women who had been targeted, harassed, and silenced for far too long. As he stood before the cameras days later, he spoke not just as a leader, but as a survivor. His words carried the weight of centuries of struggle, and in that moment, he made a promise. A promise that he would not let this be just another story lost to time. A promise that he would fight until justice wasn't just a word, but a reality for all. The world was watching, and for the first time in a long time, people were listening. But whether they were truly willing to change, that was a question only time would answer. Hey everyone, if this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you why we need to keep having these conversations, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps spread awareness. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Let's talk about it. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're here to share real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Lastly, share this with your friends and family. The more people who see this, the more we can bring awareness and change. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Let's keep pushing forward, together.